Picture an alien. Seriously, close your eyes for a second and build the image. It's almost never under a supermarket in Ohio. It's above you with a disk in the clouds, or a signal from deep space, or a rover wheel print on red dust. Something vast and far away and not from here. That's where we put aliens in the sky, and in the future, and in the part of reality we haven't reached yet. We built telescopes the size of buildings and launched probes past Pluto and scan radio frequencies for patterns that would mean someone else is thinking. And the whole time, the strangest life on this planet wasn't waiting in space. It was waiting under Romania. Not as a metaphor and not as a conspiracy board with red string, but as a sealed cave system near the Black Sea where the air would kill you in minutes, and where an entire world has been running quietly on chemistry you were never taught to call life. This video isn't about little green men. It's about what you were taught to count as normal, and what happens when Earth hides a second planet under a country you might only associate with Dracula tourism and cheap flights. Here's the assumption baked into almost every alien conversation. Life looks like us, and distance is what makes it alien. Sunlight and plants and oxygen. Animals that eat plants or each other. The textbook chain you saw in middle school printed in cheerful colors as if Earth were the obvious template for the universe. So when scientists say they're searching for alien life, you hear searching in space. Mars and Europa and exoplanets and habitable zones. Drake equations on blackboards. Headlines that treat the cosmos like a warehouse of maybe habitable shelves. And that framing does something subtle to your brain. It makes Earth feel explored and familiar and cataloged. The boring control group against which everything else is weird. But Earth is not fully explored. It is mostly unexplored in the directions you don't look, which means down and in and under and sealed and toxic and dark and older than your species by millions of years. We keep pointing our eyes upward, while one of the most alien ecosystems on the planet was under a country in Eastern Europe, behind a slab of rock-breathing poison like it was fresh mountain air. In 1986, during a survey near Mangalia on Romania's Black Sea coast, geologist Christian Lascu and colleagues were investigating the area around an old mine. They weren't hunting aliens. They were doing geology. They found a cave opening that led into something much stranger than rock layers, which was a passage into an atmosphere that didn't behave like surface air. Movile Cave, named for the region, wasn't a shallow hole with bats and graffiti. It was a sealed world. Geologists would later estimate it had been isolated from the surface for roughly 5.5 million years. When this cave closed off, much of what you think of as ancient human history hadn't even started yet. Your ancestors were still mostly a future project. For more than 5 million years, nothing from the surface was supposed to get in. No sunlight, and no seasons, and no birds, and no pollen. Just a slow chemistry experiment running in the dark long enough for evolution to forget what the sun even was. And here's the part that should break your mental model of Earth. It didn't die, it flourished. Walk into Movile Cave without serious protection, and the air can hurt you fast. Oxygen levels run far below what your lungs expect, often around a third less than surface air. Carbon dioxide is high. Hydrogen sulfide is present, which is that rotten egg gas your brain files under danger. To you, it's a death trap with a tourism problem. To the creatures inside its home. In the early 1990s, Romanian biologist Șerban Sarbu and microbiologist Thomas Kane began studying Movile's ecosystem in detail, and what they found didn't look like the food web from your school poster. There were no plants, and no algae catching sunlight, and no photosynthesis at all, because there is no light to photosynthesize. Instead, the base of the food chain is chemosynthesis, which means bacteria that harvest energy from chemical reactions in the water and rock, especially sulfur chemistry, the way surface life harvests sunlight. The cave runs on poison soup and math. Tiny microbes eat chemistry, and larger invertebrates eat the microbes or each other, including water scorpions and spiders and centipedes and snails and leeches that are pale and blind, and adapted to a world without eyes because eyes were a waste of budget. Researchers have documented dozens of species in the system, and a striking number exist nowhere else on Earth. Not rare and not endangered on the surface, but endemic, which means born in this one underworld and never known outside it. So when you say alien, what do you mean? If you mean from another planet, maybe not. If you mean life so different from your daily assumptions that it might as well be from another planet, then congratulations, because you have been standing on the launch pad the whole time. We talk about habitable worlds as if habitability were one thing, as if life needs your comfort settings like breathable air and liquid water, and a sun you can romanticize in a sunset photo. Movile Cave says otherwise. Life can run on a different energy source and in a different atmosphere and on a different timescale sealed away while continents rearrange themselves and hominids learn to walk upright and then learn to argue online. And Movile is not Earth's only cheat code. Deep hydrothermal vents and Antarctic subglacial lakes and acidic hot springs and rocks kilometers underground. The planet is full of extremophiles, which are organisms that laugh at the conditions in your biology textbook. But Movile is special even among them because of the combination of long isolation and complete darkness and toxic air, and a full food web, which means not just bacteria clinging to a vent, but predators and prey in a closed opera. It's not a sample. It's a civilization of chemistry minus the part where anyone built malls. Because the people actually tasked with finding alien life know something the posters don't. You can't recognize alien life if you only study comfortable life. NASA and other astrobiology programs have spent years studying Earth's extremophiles, including sealed caves and sulfur-driven ecosystems, as analogues for what life might look like elsewhere. Not because anyone thinks there's a Movile Cave on Mars, but because Mars and Europa and 1,000 exoplanets are not going to present you with deer and oak trees and breathable picnic weather. If something lives out there, it may run on chemistry and not sunshine. It may exist in pockets under ice and in rocks and in oceans trapped under crust the way Movile exists under Romania. The search for aliens in space is real, but the training ground for your imagination is under your feet. We look at telescopes to imagine the unknown. We should also look at caves to calibrate the unknown and stop assuming that alien means humanoid or even photosynthetic. The universe's most useful lesson might not arrive in a signal from the stars. It might arrive in a Romanian cave that tells you very politely that your definition of life has been too small. There's a quiet comedy in how humans allocate curiosity. We will spend billions aiming at rocks in the sky and debate whether a blurry dot is a city on Mars and lose sleep over 60-year-old lights in the desert. Meanwhile, a sealed ecosystem with dozens of unique species breathed sulfur underground, and most people have never heard its name. Not because it was hidden by a government, but because it was hidden by category error. We filed alien under space and filed Earth under solved. Movile Cave is what happens when both folders are wrong. So let's return to the image you built at the start. The alien above the clouds and the future out there, and the idea that strangeness must be imported from far away. Movile Cave doesn't give you a spaceship. It gives you something more embarrassing, which is proof that Earth already contains worlds you don't live in. Worlds without sun and worlds without oxygen you can breathe. Worlds where the food chain starts with bacteria eating rock chemistry and still supports predators with fangs. If that's not alien enough for you, the problem isn't the cave. It's the size of the box you put life in. Aliens might exist in space maybe, but the strangest life you can study today, which is the life that most violently contradicts what you were taught in school, isn't waiting for a rocket. It's under Romania breathing poison and eating sulfur and unbothered by your telescopes. If you're still likely wrong about the obvious things like sleep and boredom, and where aliens actually hide, subscribe to Likely Wrong. We'll keep asking the questions you didn't know you had. This video is for education and curiosity, not scientific or medical advice.